a third of a very long story that's in the book. And the story has to do with the lottery in the U.S. state of Massachusetts. What you're looking at here is a picture from the very last drawing of a lottery game called Cash Windfall in Massachusetts. This is a picture from January 2012. And the point of this story is to explain why this was the last drawing. In order to do that, let me start with a little kind of starter about how lotteries work in general. Okay, so this is how a lottery works. You pay a small amount of money, let's say $2, and I'm going to give a little simplified version to start with. You pay a small amount of money for a small chance of winning a large amount of money. So for instance, let's say a lottery ticket costs $2, and maybe there's a 1 in 200 chance that you win $300 back. Oh, should I have changed the currency for this? That would have been thoughtful. Sorry, I didn't think to do that. Okay, well, the story takes place in the United States. So if you play this game 1,000 times, and people who play the lottery do play 1,000 times, and people really like to play the lottery a lot. If you play this game a lot, if you play it 1,000 times, well, how many times are you going to win? Well, of course, there's variation in that. It's random, but if there's a 1 in 200 chance of winning, in your 1,000 plays, you'll probably win about 5 times, right? So that means you win 5 of those $300 prizes, or $1,500. Sounds pretty good. Until you think about the fact that you spent $2,000 in tickets to get that $1,500 in winning. So the sort of term of art that mathematicians use to talk about this kind of computation is expected value. So we would say the expected value of this ticket is $1.50. That is how much you're going to win on average per play. So that's the mathematical term. I gotta say though, that it's sort of a terrible term. It's one of those that we wish we could take back. We can't, the notation is what it is, but it's a bad piece of terminology because the expected value, whatever it means, it certainly does not mean the value we expect that ticket to have. In fact, it's not even a possible value for the ticket to have, right? That ticket is either worth nothing or it's worth $300, but it is definitely not worth $1.50. So somehow, if we had it to do over again, we would probably call this the average value, which is a much more reasonable summation of what we're actually trying to describe. $1.50 is how much the average ticket is worth. On the other hand, the average ticket costs $2. In fact, all the tickets cost $2, and a fundamental rule of thumb is that you shouldn't pay $2 for something that's worth $1.50. And here you have, in a nutshell, the mathematical case against playing lottery. And now I'll complicate that a little bit. So what you're looking at here is an actual list of payoffs for a lottery game in Massachusetts, the regular state lottery. The exact numbers are not important, but I want you to look at this computation at the bottom. You don't have to check it for yourself, but what I want to point out is that the example I gave at the beginning, the simplified example, was unrealistic in a couple of ways. One way it was unrealistic is that there was only 2 classes of prize. Real lotteries are not like this. Real lotteries have a lot of different prizes. They have a big jackpot that you get if you get all the numbers correct. But that jackpot is really hard to win, and it's kind of demoralizing for people. If there were only the jackpot, people probably wouldn't play, right? Because they probably wouldn't feel like they could win. So the real lotteries have like a whole sequence of lower tier prizes, some of which, like matching 3 out of the 6 numbers in the Massachusetts lottery, are really not that hard to win at all. The payoff is kind of low, only $5, but you have a 1 in 47 chance of winning. That means if you play a lot, if you play every day, probably every so often you're going to win, and it's quite common for like a friend of yours to win or somebody you know to win. So it keeps people playing, right? Running a lottery has a lot to do with psychology. So that's one way that my simplified example was unrealistic. Too few tiers of prizes. The other way my simplified model was unrealistic is that it was incredibly generous to the players. No real lottery pays back $1.50 for every as the average value of a $2 ticket. This Massachusetts lottery, the expected value of a $2 ticket was just 80 cents. That's a lot lower. In fact, I was looking actually at some lotteries that are played here. Does anybody play Euro Millions? That's a 40-cent expected value on a 0.4 of a euro expected value on a €2 ticket. That is insanity. This would never be tolerated in the United States. I just want to tell you guys that. Even American lottery players would be like, that is a stinker of a game. People who like play this every day would like not play Euro Millions. Okay, so as I said, the reason you don't have just a jackpot is because it's demoralizing when nobody wins. If people are not winning the jackpot, people start to get depressed and people stop playing. And this is what happened in the state of Massachusetts in the year of about 2004, 2005. A whole year went by without anybody winning the jackpot. And they could see at the Lottery Commission that people were stopping playing the game. People were depressed, they didn't feel like there was a chance, and it wasn't working. So they said, we gotta make a change. We gotta do something to goose interest in our game. So they instituted a new rule, a rule called the roll-down rule. Let me explain how it works. They said, instead of just letting that money pile up in the jackpot, right? Because if nobody wins the jackpot pool gets bigger. That money that is not given out in prizes just kind of makes the jackpot bigger and bigger and bigger. They said, okay, that is not satisfying people because they feel like that jackpot may get bigger and bigger and bigger, but I'm never gonna win. They said, let's make a new rule. If that jackpot goes over $2 million and nobody wins the jackpot, that drawing, then it's gonna roll down. All that money is gonna roll down into the lower tier prizes and make them bigger. Well, that's exciting. That's maybe a good way to get people interested. So they were trying to design a game that looked like a better deal for the player. And in fact, they did their job a little bit too well. I can always tell how mathy an audience is by how big a laugh I can get with a table. That's always, So this is what the payoff matrix for the Massachusetts Cash Windfall Lottery looked like on February 7th, 2005. So for instance, that 4 out of 6 prize, there's a 1 in 800 chance of winning. You remember in a usual drawing, that was a $150 prize. On this roll-down day, in which no one won the jackpot, that prize was actually worth almost $2,400. So stop to think about that. There's a 1 in 800 chance of winning, and the prize is worth $2,400. So if you bought 800 tickets, you were probably going to win $2,400 right there for the $1,600 you spent buying 800 tickets. And that's just the 4 out of 6 prizes, right? There's other prizes too, each of which has a value. And when you add it all up, you find that the average value of a $2 lottery ticket sold on this day was $5.53. So that is not a bad investment. So how do I know, by the way, exactly what the payoffs were for this? Why do I know what payoffs were for this particular day of the Massachusetts State Lottery? I know it because I read about it in the following document, which you shouldn't be able to read from where you sit, but let me tell you what this is. This is a 25-page letter from the Inspector General of the state of Massachusetts to the state treasurer, trying to explain what had happened to the state lottery. And I gotta tell you guys, I feel safe in saying this is the only fiscal oversight document by a municipal official that you will ever read that makes you wonder if somebody has the movie rights to it. It really is kind of a crazy story, which, again, in the book I tell at length. Here I'm going to tell it to you somewhat briefly. What happened? Well, what happened is that on February 7th, 2005, the state lottery started getting phone calls. For instance, they got a phone call from a Star Market in Cambridge, Massachusetts, which is like a convenience store, saying some college kids just came in and want to buy 5,000 lottery tickets. Is that okay? So there's a rule, if a single buyer wants to buy a lot of lottery tickets, they have to call the state lottery and get a special waiver, but this is granted. And by the way, this was not the only place. There was similar large buys in several places around the state. But what was going on? What was going on is that there are a lot of people who could make a table like the one that I just showed you. And some people did. So for instance, one of the main players of the story are it's a guy from MIT called James Harvey. He was a senior at MIT at the time. And And as it happened, he was doing an independent study project in January 2005 on the expected value of state lottery tickets. He was a lucky guy. And as part of his project, he computed the value of all currently running Massachusetts lottery games, and presumably he drew a table very much like the one I just showed you, and the first thing he did was go around to all of his friends in his dorm at MIT and say, you should really give me all the money that you have right now so I can go buy lottery tickets with it. And if you go to MIT, I think everybody in your dorm can also compute that table and see that that's actually a wise idea, and so they sort of coalesced their money and bought all those tickets in Cambridge. There was another group called the Dr. Jong Lottery Club, which was based around biomedical researchers at Northeastern University, which is also in Boston. And then maybe my favorite guy was a guy called Jerry Selby, who was a retired engineer in Michigan. How did he happen to hear about it? Well, where did Massachusetts get the idea for this roll-down rule? They got it from a roll-down game in Michigan that had just closed. I'm not sure they asked Michigan why it closed, but Jerry Selby knew why it closed because he had made about $2 million off the Michigan game over the previous 7 years or so. So he could not believe his ears when he saw that Massachusetts was opening the gates again. So he immediately got in the car with his wife and drove to the nearest point in the state of Massachusetts to Michigan. But that's pretty far, guys. I don't know if everybody knows the location of all the U.S. states, but that's probably about a 14-hour drive, I'd say. And he made a big buy up in the northwest corner of the state and kept on doing this. So the story that is outlined in this long 25-page document is the way that these three groups of high-volume players continued to buy more and more lottery tickets, taking their winnings and plowing them back into the investment scheme and buying yet more, until by the time this reached some kind of equilibrium, just to give you some sense, the Inspector General estimates that on a given roll-down day, somewhere between 80 and 90% of all tickets sold in Cash Windfall were being sold to a member of one of these three groups. So how does this story end? Well, it ends like this. This is the front page of the Boston Globe in summer 2011. At some point, somebody figures out this is going on. The Globe gets tipped off, and they run this story explaining what's going on with the state lottery. And at this point, the game is up, right? Once people perceive that the game is not what it seems, then people stop playing, and then it doesn't work anymore. Then no more money flows into the system. So in a way, that's the end of the story, but if you read it from a mathematical point of view, the chronological end of the story is not really the end, right? Because as mathematicians, there are some puzzles that remain. At least they remain for me when I was reading this story, and I was trying to read it with a mathematician's eye and trying to understand what really went on here. So I'm going to spend the rest of our time together talking about two mathematical puzzles that I think we're left with, having told the bare bones version of this story. One is easy, one is hard. Let's start with the easy one. The first puzzle is, how could you actually get away with this? This is a little weird, right? Let me remind you that the state knows who's winning the lottery, right? Because they have to give you the money. So it's not a secret. The state knows that all the winning numbers are coming from the same three convenience stores again and again. Let me remind you something else. If you guys were paying attention to the dates, when's that first roll down? February 2005. When's this article in the Boston Globe? July 2011. So there was time to figure out that something was amiss. This is 6 years we're talking about. So this is puzzle one. How did the state not figure out what was going on? Well, this is the reason this puzzle is easy. No, I like bureaucrats, okay. So the reason this puzzle is easy is the following. Here's the answer. The state did figure it out. And how do I know this? I know it because it's in the Inspector General's report. And in fact, I slightly lied to you. I said that when James Harvey figured out that the new Massachusetts lottery game had a positive expected value, I said the first thing he did was get money from all of his friends in his dorm and go buy a lot of tickets. But no, that is the second thing that he did. The first thing he did, because kids who go to MIT are like good kids who like play by the rules and get good grades, right? The first thing he did was get on the subway and go to Braintree, Massachusetts, and go to the state lottery headquarters and have a meeting with them. And he said, look, your new game has a positive expected value. I'm planning to buy thousands and thousands of tickets and make a lot of money. Is that legal? And the Inspector General does not record exactly what response he got to this query, but it must have been something like, sure, knock yourself out, because the next thing that happened was what I just told you, and then it went on happening for another 6 years. Okay, so that's the answer to that puzzle, but that answer kind of spawns another question, as so often happens. It spawns the question, why didn't the state do anything about it? If the state knew from day one that this was going on. Okay, so to answer this question, I need to use a very sophisticated mathematical diagram, which represents the limit of my PowerPoint skills. So what's actually going on here? Random Strategies, I should say, is the name of James Harvey and James Harvey's team. It's the name of his group of people. You might object that their strategy was really not very random at all. What's actually going on here is that the dorm they lived in was called Random Hall, which is a place at MIT, and that was where the money was coming from. So, how should you think of what's going on here? Well, I want to remind you one more very important thing about how the lottery works, which is this. When a lottery ticket is sold for $2, Massachusetts takes 80 cents of that money, and that's state revenue, right? That's what goes to pay police officers and pave the streets and keep the lights on and do all the things that the lottery is intended to do. And then the rest of that money is eventually going to get dispersed in prizes in one form or another. So what does that mean? That means that from the point of view of the state, the amount of money it makes is 80 cents times the number of tickets sold. The state does not care who wins the lottery. The state only cares how many tickets are sold. So this is a crucial point, because when this story came out in the newspaper, I think it was presented as that these folks had somehow cheated the state out of a lot of money. In fact, the Inspector General estimates that the state of Massachusetts took in somewhere between $10 and $15 million extra revenue above what they would have had these three large groups of bettors not existed. So I think it's safe to say that somehow if you come away with an 8-figure win, you are not the person who got scammed. So what's going on? Where was this money coming from? Well, of course, the money was coming from the people who were playing the lottery on the non-roll down days. So that's what this figure is meant to emphasize. You should think of what was happening as a movement of money from all the regular players to these groups of people who are playing only on the roll down days, with Massachusetts getting 80 cents every time a ticket is sold. Maybe a good analogy is like this. Again, when this story came out in the newspapers, it was sort of at the same time, actually, that there was a big story about MIT students winning a lot of money at blackjack. Does anybody remember the story in Las Vegas casinos? And so it was sort of, these two stories were talked about in a breath. They said, how did the kids at MIT figure out how to beat the house? Okay, let me explain why that's wrong. What were the kids at MIT doing? They were making a lot of bets, right? They were buying, just to give you the scale, about 200,000 tickets every roll down day. They were making a lot of bets, each one of which had a small positive expected value. I should also say, by the way, that once a lot of people were playing, it didn't stay like $5.50 for a $2 ticket. It was more like a 15% profit on average. That's still pretty good. So they're making a small, and so some of those bets are going to win, some of them are going to lose. But if each one is slightly tilted towards the MIT kids, then on the whole, they're very likely going to make money. So if that's your strategy, you're making a lot of bets which are slightly tilted in your favor, you are not beating the house. You are the house. I mean, that is what the house does. And so I think a productive way to think about what was actually going on from a mathematical point of view is to compare it to the following diagram, which is exactly the same. The kids from MIT and the other high-volume bettors were playing the role of the casino. The regular lottery players were playing the role of the regular bettors who come to the casino and bet. And they, in the aggregate, make lots of bets which overall have a slightly negative expected value, and money is flowing away from them. And every time it does, every time the money flows in Las Vegas, the state of Nevada reaches in and takes a cut. Right? Because states don't like to gamble. States like to collect taxes. That's their skill set. That's what they're good at. And that's what they do, and that's what they were doing in Massachusetts. In other words, what you should think of as having happened is that the state of Massachusetts, I still don't know whether on purpose or sort of stumbling into it, had licensed a gigantic, under-publicized virtual casino on which they collected lots of taxes, made a good profit, and which carried on until people found out about it. So that, in the end, I think is the answer. I think that's a satisfying answer to the first question of how did this go on for so long. But now I want to turn to the second question, which turns out to have quite a bit more mathematical heft. You see, I've been talking about these three groups of bettors as if they were all the same. But that's not quite true. There's one very interesting difference between the three groups that the Inspector Generals point out, which is that Jerry Selby and Dr. John use what's called the quick pick machine. I don't know if there's an analog to that in the UK. So what is this? This is a machine that picks random numbers for you to play. And that seems like a good idea, right? Because we all know that you can't predict what numbers the lottery is going to come up with. Any number is as good as the other. If you're going to buy 200,000 tickets, it certainly seems like it would save a lot of time and cost you nothing to have those tickets printed out randomly for you by machine. But Random Strategies, contrary to their name, did not do this. They filled out their tickets by hand. 200,000 of them. Why? Why do this? This is a humongous pain. And, the Inspector General's report mentions that they did this, but didn't say why. And I became kind of obsessed with this because I was like, these people are smart. They know what they're doing. They know math. They know that the expected value of each ticket is the same. Why would they care which tickets they had? That's what I want to spend the rest of our time together talking about. So as mathematicians, when we're faced with a problem we don't understand, the first thing we do is we try to make it simpler. We try to replace our problem with a simpler problem, hopefully which has the same features, enough of the same features as the original one that we can use it to gain some insight. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. Let me replace this lottery with a smaller game, which for reasons that are lost in history is sometimes called the Transylvanian lottery. And here, instead of having 46 different numbers like in the actual Massachusetts lottery, there are only 7 balls in the cave. And instead of picking 6 of those, you're only going to pick 3. And the reason I do that is because it means that the number of jackpots is now so small that I can list them all on one slide. Here they are, all the different ways of picking 3 numbers out of 7. For the combinatorics fans in the audience, the number of these is 35, which is 7 choose 3. And it's called 7 choose 3 because it's the number of ways of choosing 3 things out of 7. But it doesn't matter if you know that. It just matters that you believe me that these are all the possible combinations. And now we can start to say, well, what if the game were this small? Let's see if we can understand what would be the benefit of choosing the numbers yourself as opposed to picking them randomly. Well, first of all, I have to sort of tell you what the rules of the game are now that I've shrunk it a little bit. Again, let's simplify. Let's not have like 6 different tiers of prize. Let's only have 2. So in this simplified game, there's 2 kinds of prizes. You get a jackpot, which is worth $6 if you get all 3 numbers right. Order doesn't matter, by the way. I'm going to emphasize that. If you get 2 out of the 3 numbers right, you have a smaller prize, which let's call a deuce, which is worth $2. And if you get 1 or 0 of the numbers right, then you get nothing. So, okay, this is very simple, but it has some of the features of the original game, right? It has multiple tiers of prizes, well, only 2, and it sort of has the same form, but at a much smaller scale. And now in this game, what is a high volume bettor? You don't have to buy 200,000 tickets to be a high volume bettor in this game. I mean, there are only 35 different tickets to buy. So for us, let's discuss the problem of buying 7 tickets. That's a lot. That's a fifth of all possible tickets, right? So that's a pretty big purchase. And what I want to show you is what happens if you pick 7 tickets at random. And I've computed this for you. showing you, I haven't actually shown you the jackpot probabilities, but I've shown you how many deuces you can expect to get. It turns out that the expected number of deuces, if you buy 7 tickets, is 2.4. And so it's not surprising that the most likely number of deuces to get are 2 or 3. There's a 30% chance of getting 2 deuces, about a 26% chance of getting 3, and there's some probability of getting fewer, and there's some probability of getting more. In fact, given this, you can compute the expected value of this ticket. Of your 7 tickets, you expect to get 2.4 deuces. The expected number of jackpots, that's 1/5. Why is it 1/5? Because, well, you've got 1/5 of the tickets, so there's a 1 in 5 chance that the jackpot is among them. So let's see, 2.4 times $2 is $4.80, and then 1/5 of that $6 prize is $1.20. Put that together, and the expected value of your 7 tickets is $6. And again, I want to remind you that that every ticket has the same expected value. So it actually doesn't matter which 7 tickets I'd written down. This is sort of a fun exercise to do yourself. Any 7 tickets I chose would have an expected value of $6. This is the source of our intuition that it shouldn't matter which 7 you pick. So here's what we're going to do. Ready? You are going to think and write down 7 tickets that you want to buy. So a ticket is just a choice of 3 numbers from 1 through 7. And here's the game we're going to play. I told you that on average, we can expect to win $6 every time. So what we're going to do is we're going to pick some random numbers. We're going to play the game. Every one of you who has done it is going to see how much money you won on your 7 tickets. You got to be honest. And here's how it's going to work. It's like an elimination game. If you get less than $6, you're out. And I'm playing this game too, by the way, so I'm going to show you my tickets. Everybody picks? Okay, no copying. All right. Okay, and here's mine. Okay, now I do need one more thing, which is I need somebody to be the random ball cage. Is there anybody really random here? Okay, this kid. Okay, so try if you can not to look at mine and not to look at your friends there, and just call out 3 random numbers between 1 and 7. These should be 3 different numbers, right? Just when they come out of the ball cage, they're all different, and then we're all going to score. Okay, so 5, 7, I'm going to order that as 5, 6, 7, just so we'll have them in order. Okay, so everybody gets what we're doing? The jackpot is 5, 6, 7. You guys are scoring your 7 tickets. If you have 5, 6, 7, you get $6 just for that. If you have a 5 and a 7, you get $2 for that. If you have a 5 and a 6, you get $2 for that. If you have a 6 and a 7, you get $2 for that. Let's see how I did. Maybe that. So I've got 1, 6, 7. That gets me $2. I don't have a jackpot there. I have 2, 5, 6. That gets me another $2. And I have 3, 5, 7, and that gets me another $2, right? Because I have the 5 and the 7. So I have 6. So I'm still in. I have 6. Okay. All right, let's do it again. Ball cage man, are you ready? Okay. 1, 6, 7. Okay, I've got a jackpot. I already have 6. Let me see if I've got anything else. Everybody count theirs up? Okay, who's still in? Okay, fewer, but still a fair number. Okay, I'm ready. We're 2, 4, 5. Okay, I do not have a jackpot. Okay, I'm gonna look. I've got 1, 4, 5. That's a deuce for me. I've got 2, 4, 7. That's a deuce for me. And I've got 2, 5, 6. And that's it. So I got 3 deuces. So I got $6. So I'm still in. All right, let's do one more. 3, 1, 4. Okay, otherwise known as 1, 3, 4. Okay, so 1, 3, 4 are the numbers. Oh, and I've got 2 deuces on my first 2 right there, and then I've got 3, 4, 6. Okay, so I've got 2 deuces. Okay, so I'm in with $6. Okay, so let's end it at 4 rounds. I kind of like this game, but we can only do it for so long. Okay, so I'm still in. I made my 6 every time. Who else got 6 or above every time? Okay, so a decent number. I'm probably about like, what do you guys think? Maybe like 1 in 5 of the people who are playing. Like a handful of people. Okay, so what did you guys notice, especially a kid, about my winnings? Anybody notice anything? Besides the fact that I'm still in, because I'm great at this game. I always got 6, right? Not only did I never go under, I never went over. And that is no coincidence. In fact, the miraculous thing about these numbers that I've chosen is that although it looks like I'm playing a gambling game, I am not, because no matter what the jackpot is, I will win $6 on the nose. So this is how the payoff matrix looks for my 7 numbers. Instead of this wide range of possibilities, there are in fact only 2 things that can happen. 4 out of 5 times, I will get 3 deuces and I will win $6. And 1 out of 5 times, I will have the jackpot and I will win $6. And what that means is I cannot be eliminated from this game. So these 2 bets have the same expected value, but they're not the same bet. They are rather different. In the language of finance, we would say that they have the same return, but the second one has a lot less risk. Right? There's no chance of getting one of these like very poor results, like only 2 deuces or 1 deuce or no prize at all. That cannot happen. And most people, given the choice between 2 investments that have the same return, will choose the one with the less risk. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's downside to that too. I'm also giving up the possibility of winning a lot more, right? But that is a choice most people will make, especially if your business plan involves borrowing money from people. In finance, we would call this leverage. If the way you're running your business is borrowing money from all your friends to buy lottery tickets, and then you buy a lot of lottery tickets, and then you lose all of their money, and then if you come back and say, but by an expected value computation, if you can somehow find more money to give me in the long run, we'll come out ahead, that is usually not such a successful business strategy, right? If you're playing with other people's money, you really don't want to lose. And so a hedging strategy like this one, where you eliminate the possibility of loss, is quite attractive. The question is, how would you come up with these numbers? How would you come up with these numbers that are somehow so perfectly arrayed so that you eliminate all possibility of loss? Well, they come from at least what to me was a rather surprising source. They come from geometry. So what are we looking at here? We're looking at very many things. One thing we're looking at is a kind of diagram of those 7 tickets I just showed you. If you see here, there's 7 points here corresponding to the 7 numbers. And there's also 7 little curves, right? There's, and each of the curves contains 3 of the points. So if you look, that little edge along the bottom is 1, 2, 3. That's one of my tickets. The circular thing is 2, 5, 6. That's another one of my tickets. There's a line segment that's 1, 4, 5. There's one that's 3, 5, 7. And if you go back to the previous slide, you could. Those are exactly the tickets that I have. So this is a kind of diagram by which I keep track of what my 7 tickets were. So one thing it is a picture of my magic set of tickets. But another thing it is I would say it's a picture of the plane. It's a somewhat weird thing to say. It doesn't look like a plane. It looks like some kind of a funny triangle with a circle drawn in it. But I'm going to say that this is a plane, and the points are points, and those little curved things are lines. Okay, that's a weird thing. That's an even weirder thing to say, right? Because for those taking geometry, even the ones that are lines don't look like lines. They're line segments, right? Everybody remember this distinction? Because they're finite in extent. And then there's that one in the middle that doesn't look like a line at all. It looks like a circle. And yet, I demand the right to say that these are lines. Why? Because to a modern mathematician, we're not tied to our usual geometric notions of points and lines when we talk about points and lines. To us, a point is a thing that behaves like a point, and a line is a thing that behaves like a line. Okay, what does that mean? Well, what are our rules for how points and lines behave? They were given to us by Euclid, right? I mean, these are the rules of geometry, and what I want to point out is that with this definition of points and lines, the rules of geometry are obeyed. It's kind of fun to check this for yourself on the picture, that every two lines intersect in a single point. And any 2 points determine a unique line, just like they're supposed to, according to the rules of geometry. Is anybody doing geometry right now, by the way? I think everybody in the room is either too young or too old. Because there is one way in which these are actually not Euclid's rules. Everything I say here is true about this picture, but it's a bit different from regular geometry, because in regular geometry, lines can be parallel. So you can have two lines that don't intersect at a point. See, I consider that a problem. Rules with exceptions are bad. Rules without exceptions are much nicer. So this geometry is actually much better than Euclidean geometry. It's what's called a projective geometry, in which there are no parallel lines. And if I had another hour to tell you this story, I would tell you all about how the basic ideas of projective geometry were first developed, not actually by mathematicians, but by painters. Because they were the ones who had to figure out how to depict a three-dimensional world on a two-dimensional canvas. And if you've seen sort of one-point perspective painting, you're familiar with the fact that there are a lot fewer parallel lines in paintings than there are in the real world, right? The railroad tracks. Okay, I know there weren't railroad tracks in the 15th century, but I mean, that's the idea. Like, parallel things like sort of seem to come to a point on the canvas, exactly for this reason that in projective geometry, there's no such thing as parallel lines. Any two lines meet. So maybe I've sort of made some kind of a convincing case that it's not ridiculous to call these curvy-looking things lines and to call these pointy-looking things points. What connection does it have with what I'm actually talking about? Well, here's the deal. Why is it that this set of tickets has the properties I said it had? How did I know that when my friend over here said 145, that was the one that was the jackpot. Let me make a different one. 5, 6, 7 was another one that he said. Let's look at 5, 6, and 7. That was the first one, right? How did I know I was going to have 3 deuces? Well, how did I know I was going to have a ticket with a 6 and a 7? I knew that because there is a line through the points 6 and 7. There it is, 1, 6, 7. That's one of my tickets. How did I know I was going to have a ticket that contained 5 and 7, giving me another deuce prize? Because I know there's a line through the points 5 and 7. And there it is, 3, 5, 7. And finally, 5 and 6, what goes through them is the line 2, 5, 6. So the geometric fact, that through any 2 points there's exactly one line, that is exactly what is required to guarantee, I mean, in sort of lottery language, that says that given any jackpot, each pair of numbers in that jackpot will be on exactly one of my tickets. And so I'll get exactly 3 deuces. The only way that can get a little messed up is if the 3 points that my friend chose were actually collinear, like 1, 4, 5. Then I do have a ticket containing 1 and 4, and I do have a ticket containing 1 and 5, and I do have a ticket containing 4 and 5, as the geometry guarantees, but they're all the same ticket. And there you have it. Those are the 2 things that can happen. The 3 points can either be collinear or not. I will either get the jackpot or I get 3 deuces. So, this is quite mysterious. This thing, by the way, I should give credit where it's due. This is called the Fano-plane. It was developed at the very outset of axiomatic geometry by Gino Fano, who was an Italian geometer in the late 19th century. There's one problem, though. I mean, I really feel like I've given a nice solution to how you should buy your 7 tickets to eliminate risk. The problem is that, of course, let's not forget that I simplified the problem. There are not 7 numbers in cash windfall, there are 46. You don't pick 3 of them, you pick 6 of them. So maybe I was sort of clever and sort of found some nice picture I could draw from classical geometry to handle this small problem. But what about the big one? So here we have our toe sort of on the edge of a very beautiful, large, old area of mathematics called the theory of combinatorial designs. I'm not going to tell the whole story, though. It's a great story. Let me just say that there exists an entire long mathematical story of how to develop configurations like this in all manner of situations. And actually, I'll just say, because it's kind of UK related, this is Peter Kivash, who's a professor at Oxford, and in some sense last year, he proved a truly remarkable theorem that essentially puts the cap on about 150 years of work in this area, proving that a design like the one I just showed you that those designs are ubiquitous. Basically, in every context in which you would expect there to exist such a thing, there really does exist. And this was I think it was quite unexpected, actually, that this problem could be solved so soon. It's a really miraculous piece of work by Peter. That being said, when I was thinking about this problem of cache windfall, I wasn't thinking about the general case of good designs appearing in every possible context. I was thinking about this one particular context of 6 numbers chosen out of 46 balls. Moreover, Peter's proof is what's called non-constructive, right? It doesn't necessarily give you an easy, quick way to actually write down such a design. It's what it just proves that they exist. That being said, though, there is, as I said, this very long literature about problems like this. And so I became kind of obsessive trying to figure out what these kids at MIT actually did. I became certain that they had used some kind of combinatorial design strategy, and that minimizing risk was the reason that they were choosing their own tickets. And I wanted to kind of reverse engineer to figure out what it was. And after some searching, I found the following paper, also a UK product, by the way. This is RHF Dennison from the University of Leicester, who wrote a paper in 1976 generating some kind of combinatorial designs. Actually, these guys were actually on 48 balls, not 46, but I tweaked it a little bit. And I was able to come up with a configuration of about 230,000 tickets, which gives you a 2% chance of winning the jackpot, a 72% chance of hitting 6 of those 5 out of 6 prizes, and a 24% chance of winning 5 of those 5 out of 6 prizes. So essentially guaranteeing that you would win at least 5 of those big prizes, and essentially hedging away all risk in a way that actually looks rather different. The risk of loss would be much greater if you picked your 230,000 tickets randomly. And people always ask me if I can draw a picture of this one. I cannot. I'm sorry. I wish there was like a beautiful picture, like the picture of the funnel plane. There is not, but it's in some sense similar in spirit in that it does have to do with finite projective geometry, just like the funnel plane does, but in a much more intricate way, which is why it was only developed about 100 years later. So I'll just close by saying that I don't actually know, because I was not able to get these guys to tell me, if this is actually what they did. But if they didn't, I think it's what they should have done. Okay, I'll stop there and I'll take questions. Thank you so much.